guys, how you doing? Anime Santa here, apparently, with just the way my hat and my hair looks right now. I look like Anime Santa, or JoJo Santa. Jingle all the way. That's the name of JoJo Santa's stand, is Jingle all the way. You know, Araki, honestly, I know he normally names the stands after, like, popular songs or bands or musicians and stuff, but there's really a whole untapped market with Christmas carols that Araki has yet to go into, alright? So maybe that's coming up in part 9. We're gonna have a bunch of Christmas-themed stands, alright? I go with that 100%. But today, we're not talking about JoJo, no, we're talking about One Piece chapter 965, titled The Kurozumi Clan Conspiracy. So if you couldn't figure from this chapter, yes, in this chapter we find out why Orochi is the man he is today. Or maybe man is kind of stretching it a little bit, more of like, you know, rat bastard kind of. But yeah, we find it out here. Now, we don't get the whole story. The whole thing of how he conspired with Kaido to take over Wano. Kaido has been conspicuously absent from most of this flashback, okay? So whenever Kaido makes an appearance, it's gonna be kind of like a last-minute introduction, where something's just gonna happen where Kaido arrives at Wano and Orochi maybe makes a deal with him, or Orochi finds out about Kaido's existence and then reaches out to him. Something has to happen with Kaido, but whenever Kaido does appear, it's just gonna be in the last, you know, few years of this flashback, because we've already, in this chapter, we're gonna go 26 years back. So we start off with the 30 years ago that we were at, and so we're gonna flash forward 4 years in this chapter, so 26 from the present storyline. Kaido is yet to make an appearance. But yeah, no, we find out the reason why he's doing what he's doing now, how Orochi fell into hard times, why he was just a poverty-stricken little kid and got accepted by Yasuie, and why he was like, you know, sniveling his way through the daimyos and the royalty of Wano, putting himself in position next to Sukiyaki, you know, the poisoning and all that stuff. We find out what his ultimate goal is. Now, of course, his goal, as I'm sure a lot of people would figure, is, I want to become Shogun. But why does he want to become Shogun? Alright, so that's the reason we find out here. And there is a familial connection here that is rather interesting. So, we get the cover page, and not really all that interesting. The thing happens that we all figured was going to happen eventually. The germ pirates, led by Captain E. coli and his merry band, are rampaging through Dressrosa, and yeah, Bege just knocks that shit down. That's what he does. He's just like, hey, can you guys keep it down here? I'm trying to be all conspicuous. You're gonna blow our cover. So yeah, he just beats down Captain E. coli, and Vito's there, and they all take down all the rest of the germ pirates. And, you know, the whole thing here is like, you know, quit drawing attention to us, even though he wasn't really, like, the germ pirates were kind of doing their own thing. Bege could have just ran and hide, but, you know, that's not how the fire tank pirates do stuff, alright? They're the mafia at the end of the day, so I'm assuming the Marines are probably going to notice, holy crap, that's Capone Gang Bege that's here, so we'll see where this goes. So, we continue with the flashback. At this point, we are still 30 years from the present storyline, alright? So this is right after Toki and Oden properly join up on Whitebeard's crew. Whitebeard, after witnessing the dedication that Oden showed by not only holding on to the chain, but giving up that opportunity to join the crew by going to save Toki, Whitebeard is impressed, and he's like, accepts him on the crew as one of his brothers. Toki is there, and she explains a little bit more about how this is going on, alright? She explains that she herself is not from Wano, wait, but her parents are. She was told, like, oh, my parents are from Wano. I have no idea where I'm even at right now, so all I really got to go on here is to go back to my ancestral homeland, which is Wano. Alright, now, this brings up a lot of questions here, okay? Minor spoiler for the remainder of this chapter, but I have to bring it up now because this is kind of a big deal. Toki's last name, Amasuki, I originally thought it was maybe like an old name for the Kozuki clans, because it's very similar in terms of the kanji. We find out in this chapter, no, it's not the same clan, but the Amasuki clan is one of the daimyo families of Wano, under the Kozuki family. And in addition to that, we find out that the majority of the old daimyo family names all have the kanji for moon in there at some point. We already knew this because of Shimosuke, which I should have figured. If the Shimosuke clan, that had the kanji for moon in it, frost moon. Kozuki is the kanji for light and moon, and Amasuki is the kanji for heaven and moon. I should have figured. Well, I did throw out the idea that maybe, if not part part of the Kozuki clan proper. Toki might have been part of a family that were like retainers. So I was kind of half right. They're not really retainers, they're daimyo, okay? They are the royalty, the nobles of Wano, okay? So we find that out later in this chapter. So we know Toki knows her name. She's aware of what her name is, and she's aware that her parents are from Wano, but she herself has never been to Wano, doesn't know what Wano's like. So this just brings up more questions. We know that she's been jumping through time for a long time now, so I guess she originated from Wano back during the Void Century, might have been a little baby, given the powers of the Toki Toki no Mi, being told that you need to escape into the future, or maybe it's possible that her parents, like her mother, had the power of the Toki Toki no Mi, took her and, you know, Toki into the future, and then gave her the powers later. Toki's mother died after passing on the information of what her name was, and where she comes from and everything, and then having to leave Toki on her own for the remainder of her life. So I assumed Toki left the land of Wano when she was at least, at youngest, I assumed it was like when she was a child. Maybe when she was like 8 years old or something, she had to start making the time jumps. It might have in fact been a lot earlier than that, to the point where even if she was born on Wano, we don't even know if she was born on Wano. We know her parents were from Wano, so there is still a connection to that, but it might have been like when she was a baby, or maybe her mom had the powers of the devil fruit before she was even born, before she was, when she was still in her mother's womb, she made these time jumps, and then she was born, and then the mother died and passed on the fruit to her. I have no idea what's going on here, but the connection is present, okay? Also, what is present is the absolute love at first sight between Toki and Oden, which, look, I kind of figured we're gonna have to do it. Like Momo has to be born in, like, 2 years, okay? So, they just met. It takes 9 months for this. Like, things have to get moving, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, there was a moment here where Oden says to Toki straight up, it's like, well, we just left Wano, so we're probably not going to be returning to Wano for a while, for probably a long time. And Toki's just like, well, I guess that's okay. Besides, when I'm with you, it feels like I've already reached my destination anyway. And Oden's like, what the hell does that mean? And she's just like, she just has a little Toki giggle, like, I wonder. And so Marco and Jozu and everybody are off to the side, and they're just like, ah. So, yeah, I mean, like, we figured that was gonna have to happen. So maybe if you were waiting for some, like, oh, how did Oden and Toki fall in love? Was it like some really crazy event? I guess it was a crazy event when Oden pops out of the water like an Umibozo swelled up to like 5 times his normal size, like, I'm here to save you, young lady! I guess that is an unusual meeting, but yeah, she just immediately fell for him because we gotta get this train rolling, right? Meanwhile, the Whitebeard crew, like Marco and Jozu and everybody, they're educating Nekomamushi and Inuarashi on the world. Marco basically just gives them a very brief overview of the world. He's like, okay, number one, the world is round, so you One Piece flat earth conspirators can be quiet now because the One Piece world has been confirmed to be spherical. It has 4 blues and then 1 sea that is really long that stretches the entire length of the planet. So, of course, north, south, east, west blues, and the Grand Line, broken up into 2 halves. I'm sure Marco also explained the basics of the Red Line, the calm belts, reverse mountain, all the major geographical points of the planet. But we actually do get an interesting moment where, I said it was Marco earlier that was explaining this. It's actually Oden. Oden's the one that's like looking at the map and talking to Toki about it. But anyway, he points to the location, or at least the general location on the map where Wano is, and from the location on the map, you can see that it's in the northern part of the New World, as in like right around here in this general space. That's where Wano is located, okay? So it's not exact, but it gives us a general idea like where we're at right now in the New World, okay, with like the Straw Hats at Wano at the moment, okay? So anyway, yeah, they learn about the world and the oceans and everything like that, and then they just continue on with their adventures. The Marines begin to attack Whitebeard's ship. Oden is, of course, like, Oden has no idea who the Marines even are, so Oden's like, oh, enemies are attacking our ship, let's attack back! And Whitebeard's like, nah, shut up, we're leaving. And so they just get away, and Oden's like, what? Why didn't we attack them? Yeah, they were attacking us. And Whitebeard is like, okay, listen up, Oden, like, yeah, you're my bro now, you're on the ship, but that doesn't excuse the fact there is a load of stuff you don't know about the world, alright? He explains to him pretty calmly, like, the Marines are part of this really special organization that takes over the entire world. The concept of maybe a world government might be too much for Oden to take in right now. Well, okay, now that I think about it, world government's pretty self-explanatory, right? If someone comes up to you, if you get sucked into a parallel world and get just dropped, and the first person you run into says, oh, there's a world government in employ, I think you could figure what they mean by that, right? But no, he explains, like, they're part of a larger organization that spans pretty much all the oceans, so even if we were to defeat these ships right now attacking us, more ships would just replace them. These aren't the same as, like, pirate crews, where if you just decimate one pirate ship, those pirates are pretty much gone forever. We probably won't see of them anymore. No, this is an organized thing. And Oden is, like, kind of a little bit dubious and confused by this. He's just like, what do you mean there's an organization that controls the entire world? Well, what is that? And Whitebeard, he doesn't go into, he's not, like, giving him a history lesson on the world government or anything, although I am sure Whitebeard knows a lot about the world, maybe not all about the Void Century and everything, but he's a very knowledgeable guy. I'm sure there's at least one person on the crew that can fill him in on about, like, hey, Vista, what's this thing about a world government? Vista's like, all right, sit down, let me tell you. So they would at least know the basics about all this stuff. But Whitebeard actually tells him, he's just like, actually, you know, think of yourself as kind of lucky, because Wano is one of the very few islands and nations in the world that is, in fact, free. Now, this brings up something interesting. Yes, Wano is an isolated nation. We've always been aware of that. But even with the most isolated of isolated nations, at least the upper echelon of that nation, in this case, it would be like the shoguns and the daimyos of Wano throughout the centuries, they have to at least be a little bit aware of the world around them, right? So I find, like, right now, of course, even though most of Wano is isolated, Orochi keeps that locked down. Orochi still stays in contact with, like, the Age of Zero and everybody. Like, he's aware that there's a world around him. He's aware that there are other Marines, the world government, the CPs, and all that stuff. He's aware of that stuff. So I find it hard to believe that Sukiyaki is, like, completely in the dark about what's beyond Wano, alright? I'm not saying that he has, like, you know, people come and visit him the same way that the CP0 visit Orochi now, because Orochi controlling things is a completely different climate, but I'm sure Sukiyaki is aware, at least, of the existence of a world government, the existence of the Marines, and all that stuff. And, of course, this ties back into their own history with the Void Century and all that stuff, and the Kozuki clan were the ones that originally created the poneglyphs. The whole reason the poneglyphs were created were to preserve the history after the world government was taken over. So Sukiyaki and all the shoguns that came before him as members of the Kozuki clan, and the daimyos as well, probably all know about this, at least on a basic level. The reason Oden is pretty much in the dark here is because, yeah, if Oden went throughout his whole life with the proper, you know, studying and training that a shogun goes through, he probably would have learned about this. But Oden kind of did whatever Oden wanted to do. So, you know, while he should have been learning about the way that Wano operated and its relationship to the outside world, Oden was stomping around, you know, redirecting rivers and kidnapping women and, like, defeating giant mountain gods, alright? So that's the reason he doesn't know much about this, but alright. So, now we cut to 2 years later, which is 28 years before the current storyline, and as anybody would figure, because of, you know, factoring in the time jump 8 years ago, so this would be the year Momonosuke is born, and sure enough, we see him be born. Original names for Momo include Tamago, which just means egg, Kombu, which I believe is a type of seaweed, Chikuwa, don't know what that is, and Sugune, these are all ingredients in Oden, because that's the joke. Oden is Oden, he eats Oden, and he names things after Oden. But at the end, we decided to go with Momonosuke, of course, which means unrivaled. So that, and also I'm probably assuming that it's a connection back to the legend of Momotaro. Momotaro, this figure in Japanese mythology that, you know, allied with all these animals and then went and defeated an entire group of Oni at Onigashima. So yeah, unrivaled, unparalleled, Momonosuke. So, you know, Oden raises up Momo and everyone cheers. Okay, so slight problem here. Not really. It was revealed in the Vivre card that the ocean of origin for Momo was in fact Wano, specifically the Courier region of Wano. It says that on Momo's Vivre card. Alright, so Either two ways you could take this. Number one, simple retcon, which I'm fine with. You know, Oceans of Origin, I'm not going to get too huffy about that. So it's fine if Oda was just like, yeah, I didn't want to reveal he was born on Whitebeard's ship or just a random ship, so I'm just going to do it on, you know, Wano with the Vivre card. Or it could indicate that, you know, the allegiance he's part of, or where he spent most of his life would be on Wano. The only problem I have with that is that it was also revealed in the Vivre cards that Katakuri and Perispero and all of, like, Big Mom's first children, they were born on, like, a random ship or a random port, even though their allegiance is obviously with Totland and they've spent most of their lives on Totland. So it seems like a little bit of contradictory there, where sometimes Oda in the Vivre card will say, no, the Ocean of Origin means the place you were actually physically born. Or, in some other cases, it means, no, it means the place that you were raised and mostly spent your life. So, little bit of a weird thing with that, or maybe at the end of the day, Oda just didn't want to reveal it. But yeah, suffice it to say, as of right now in the story, and for the way it's probably always going to be, Momonosuke was born on Whitebeard's ship. Alright, so that's a pretty cool start to a life. You know, if you could pick any place in the world to be born, being born on Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world's Edward Newgate's ship, I go with that, right? So Momo is raised up and he lets out a happy cry, as babies do. Kozuki Momonosuke. At this point, Izo kind of tells, because Izo's still there, remember, he's still at that point. So he's just like, okay, that's great, you know, Lord Oden, you have a child. Maybe it's time to go back to Wano. Like, you have a little baby now. I'm sure Izo was sitting there throughout the entire pregnancy, just kind of like, you know, being really nervous and fidgety, and Izo's just like, okay. As soon as his child is born and Oden holds it in his arms, surely he will know that being raised in this dangerous environment on this pirate ship, being attacked by other pirates and marines constantly, is not a safe environment for a newborn child. Surely he will listen to me and go back to what? Nope, he won't. You know why? Because he's Oden. Yeah. He's like, I have a baby. He's gonna grow up to love the seas just like I am. Alright, whatever. So, Oden's response to Izo when Izo asks him, hey, maybe we should go back. Oden's just like, Izo, I know you care about me and my baby and my family and everything. It's just, I've yet to really encounter the thing I'm looking for yet. Like, even though he's seen all these places he never thought he would get to see, walked on all these different islands, encountered so many crazy people over the last 2 years, he still feels like it's not enough. Or rather, he feels like there's something very particular that he has to do. Maybe this could be a tie back to, like, the Voices of All Things calling out to him and be like, you know, you must go to Laugh Tale, you have to be there, you have to learn the true history, and all that stuff. So, it's something calling to him, and he's just like, I just don't feel like it's time yet to return to Wano, okay? We also get a little side scene with Neko and Inu, and they're basically just mentioning that even though they have access to newspapers now, and to the news media and everything, they still have no idea what's going on in Wano, because Wano is so isolated, right? So, they have no idea the current situation with the Shogun and all that stuff, so we'll get to that in a moment. A few other brief moments, though, with Whitebeard, just kind of flashing through, to kind of doing a montage again. One scene we have Whitebeard announcing that because there's so many more members of the crew now, he decided to break up the crew into divisions. Okay, so up until this point, it was a pretty sizable crew, but it was manageable under normal circumstances, with just like, you know, Whitebeard being the captain. I don't know who would be the vice captain or first mate in this context, because, you know, Marco is obviously really young. You know, at this point, 2 years ago, he would have only been 17, so Marco's probably not the first mate. You know, maybe Vista, Whitey Bay, maybe Andre, maybe it would have been Rankyaku, Rakuyo. Rankyaku is the Tempest kick. Maybe Rakuyo needs to learn Rankyaku. Okay, that's the best way for this to go. But maybe he didn't even have a vice captain. Maybe he just did everything himself. But he realized now, with the size of the ship and the way it's getting, he needs to break it up into divisions. So Oden's like, oh, that's a good idea, but leave me out of it. He's like, nope, you're division second commander leader, you know, division number 2 leader. And Oden makes the face. He's like, I don't want to be in charge of people. I don't want responsibility. Stop it. But, you know, Whitebeard's like, you know, he's his older brother. He's like, no, you're going to get this job and you're going to take it and you're going to like it and you're going to work. You know, he's like, it's like Whitebeard's trying to teach Oden about responsibility, especially since he has a kid now. That's kind of important, you know? But yeah, I mean, it's really cool, is it not, that Oden was the original division commander of the 2nd Division on Whitebeard's crew, the position that would eventually be held by Ace. Also, remember when Ace finally joined up, they mentioned that the 2nd Division slot had been vacant for a very long time. So I'm going to assume that there were only two. There were Oden and Ace. Because, yeah, we actually get to see Blackbeard joining up. It's not as big of a deal as you think it is. They arrive at some random port. There's one panel with Blackbeard there at a young age. He looks very similar to when Oda drew him as a young kid. He would have been 28 years ago. Blackbeard's 40 right now. He would have been 12 here. Okay, so he was 12 years old when he was just an orphan boy in this random island on this random town. And he's like, yeah, I don't have anywhere to go. And Whitebeard's like, what's your name? And he's like, Teach. I'm like, all right, get on. So, you know, Whitebeard, that's how he joined the crew. It wasn't as impressive as I thought it would be. There still could be a very well big connection between Rocks and Blackbeard, or Teach here. He's not really Blackbeard yet. There could still be a connection, and maybe it might be something with Ace. Ace joined up on Whitebeard's crew before Whitebeard knew who he really was, and then after Ace learned to trust Pops and everything, he told him that I'm actually Roger's son. So it might be something similar here with Teach. Maybe Teach, you know, because he would have been born 2 years before the God Valley incident. So let's say he was born 2 years before that. Rocks he wasn't a father. He wasn't going to take him and like travel with him or anything. He probably just, you know, left him on some random island, maybe this island. And then he grew up in poverty for 12 years as this orphan boy. And then, you know, Whitebeard's like, okay, come on my ship, right? You know, and it's interesting because in these only 2 panels that we get, it seems like, you know, Blackbeard was the one that initiated the process. It wasn't like Whitebeard saw Blackbeard, you know, on the corner begging for food and he was like, hey kid, you got nowhere to go? He's like, no, I don't. I'm like, all right, get on. No, it seems like, you know, Teach was the one was like, please, I have nowhere left to go. You know, and he's like yelling, he's pleading with Whitebeard. So I don't know, maybe it's something where he was born and then maybe, you know, Rocks, or maybe his mom told him about Rocks and he learned about Whitebeard because Whitebeard used to be on Rocks' crew, and then now he sees Whitebeard's ship and the man himself, and Teach gets it in his head like, oh, hey, that's him, that's the guy that used to be on my dad's crew, I can make something work with this. So then he started pleading with Whitebeard, please let me on your ship, I have nowhere to go, I'm an orphan, I'm only 12 years old, please. And so Whitebeard, being the nice guy, helped him on, all right? So yeah, now Teach was put in the 2nd Division, but he never had any aspirations to become a division commander, okay, even though he was on the ship for a very long time, right? So it made sense that Oden was the 2nd Division commander, and then he eventually left to go on Roger's crew and then went back to Wano, so the 2nd Division slot was vacant. They might have asked Teach to do it. Teach said no. Nobody else really wanted. I mean, who else really wants to fill the shoes with Oden, right? Even if there was somebody that got joined the crew later and been like, oh, why is there no 2nd Division commander? And he's like, oh, do you want it? Well, I don't know, maybe I might want it. Why isn't no one taking it? And then they tell the story of Oden. It's like, well, let me tell you, there was a man named Kozuki Oden. He killed a bear at age 4, sliced a mountain deity in half. He rode on a chain for 3 days and 3 nights. If you think you can fill that man's shoes, and then the other guy's just like, oh, I'm not living up to that crap, and they just walk away. And then finally Ace was just like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. You know, Ace was just like, yeah, sure, why not? So yeah, I'm assuming there was no one in between. But yeah, we get the introduction to Teach here. For some reason, well, I know the reason. I thought he joined up when he was 16 years old. I actually misread the context. He could not have been older than 16 when he joined, just because of how the timelines shake down. So that's the thing that got me confused. So 16 would have been the absolute oldest he could have joined to make sense out of the timelines without some kind of retcon. But no, he was 12 here. So, okay, he's like 1 year older than Shanks and Buggy. Buggy and Shanks are 39 right now. Blackbeard's 40. So he's 1 year older than them. Right now, he's 12. Shanks and Buggy are 11. Okay, so we straight with the timelines. Okay, so we continue with Oden's adventures. There's like, oh, there's an island. Oden just jumps on it, just runs into the island. No, we gotta scout first. It's like, no, I gotta find it. I have this thing. I have to find something. There's a reason I'm here. So we have that. Now we cut over to Wano and see what's going on there. All right, a lot of stuff. Okay, first off, we get introduced to all the daimyo families. Kind of, or the head of all the daimyo families, kind of. We get to see, not Onimaru, it's Ushimaru. Ushimaru is the owner of Onimaru the Fox. Ushimaru Shimosuke. At least I'm assuming that's who it is. It's not actually revealed, but these are the daimyo heads. So Shimosuke clan is definitely there. Also Yasuie is there, and the other members as well, the two other daimyos. I guess that would be because Oden is gone, so he's not present. So we had the daimyo of the Kibi region and the daimyo of the Udon region that we don't know about, because we know about Hakumai and we know about Ringo region, okay? And then, of course, Sukiyaki is there, who's the shogun of the Flower Capital, or the shogun of all of Wano, okay? So, Sukiyaki is pretty sick, and he figures that he's gonna die soon. So he's like, alright, I gotta pick a successor. However, Oden's not here, so we gotta get kind of clever here. We gotta figure out, I mean, Sukiyaki is pretty confident that Oden will return one day. He's not just gonna go away forever. He's certainly not gonna die, because he's Oden, but they need to come up with something in between, because they don't know how long he's going to last. The smart thing, I think, to do here would just make Yasuie the interim shogun until Oden returns, but no, they don't do that. And there's a reason they don't do that. I'll get to that. It's kind of weird the daimyo don't bring that up, but I can kind of understand the argument here, because the daimyo, if one of them speaks up and is like, hey, I could do it, then that might look as like, oh, you really want to be shogun, huh? Do you want to overthrow? So that's the problem with this kind of society, this kind of structure. You know, the shogun himself has to be the one to kind of make a successor. If somebody else speaks up, like if Yasuie spoke up and be like, I could do it, people might look at Yasuie and be like, why is he so interested in being shogun? Is there something weird going on? You know, that's the reason. But there is a big enough reason for this. Okay, so just bear with me here. This is all going to make sense, okay? Sukiyaki recommends Orochi to be the interim shogun. I know. You're probably, if you haven't read the chapter, you're sitting there like, that makes no sense. I mean, yeah, I understand. He's just a servant. Why would you? Yeah, I get it. Why? All right. I humbly accept this role as the interim shogun, and I will rule as merely a puppet, and I will make sure that when Oden returns, I will pass on the title with no bloodshed, because I am loyal, and I am honorable, and I am Lord Orochi. I mean, I am just humble puppet King Orochi. All right. So he comes in and he makes that claim. Now, he announces that his name is Orochi Kurozumi. Okay? The other members there are all kind of like, whoa, Kurozumi, what's up with that? Alright, so now we get the backstory of that. Yasuie in particular asks Orochi, why did you keep your last name Kurozumi a secret from me? I never knew your last name. Or I'm sure maybe Orochi lied and just gave him a fake name, or he said, oh, I've never known my parents, sir. I don't know what my last name is. I just know I'm Orochi. Alright, but anyway, we get the backstory here. Orochi apologizes to Yasu. He says, well, I'm sorry for not telling you. I'm really sorry for that. I humbly apologize. Then we get the backstory here. This is going back a few years before Orochi was Yasuie's servant, before Oden met him. This was way back before even all that stuff. So this is like over 40-something years ago. All right, this happened. Maybe 41, 42 years ago. It's a stormy day or night in Wano. We're at a cemetery. There's this old ramshackled old shack where Orochi is meeting this old woman. All right, so this old woman who's like resembles a witch in like every regard is there, strumming a shamisen. And I'm imagining this is like the opposite of, you know how like when the different acts of Wano open up and Hiyori or, you know, Komurasaki is there strumming the shamisen like doon. I'm imagining this is a much more ominous, malicious kind of like, you know, like, or she's not even, it's like it's really out of tune the way she's strumming it. But anyway, yeah, so it's like to represent like the parallel here, the opposite ends. So this raging thunderstorm is going on, and this old witch woman is like, you will be shogun, Orochi. And Orochi's like, what? I don't know what you mean, old lady. What's going on here? This old woman, we do not get her name. You could just call her Oba-san, because, you know, grandma. But anyway, yeah, this old woman explains the history of the Kurozumi family, all right? So this is some interesting stuff. You know, pull up a chair, take a listen. This is interesting. All right, so the shogun before Sukiyaki, Sukiyaki's dad, we don't know his name. He had a condition where he couldn't have kids. You know, it happens, you know, whatever. Okay, that's a problem in Wano, though. because you need to have kids. That's the next heir, the next shogun, right? Well, the previous shogun before Sukiyake, his dad, didn't have kids. So they tried and they failed. So they figured, okay, we need to figure out something else here. The daimyo families all got together, and the idea was one of the daimyo heads were going to become the next shogun, considering there was no heir. We get to find out all of the names of the daimyo families, at least at the time during Sukiyaki's father. So this was a while back, okay? This was before Oden was born. This was like right before Sukiyaki himself was born. So this was, oh boy, I want to say, okay, this was 40 years ago when we started this flashback, or 42 years ago when we started this whole flashback or something. It was like, you know, Sukiyaki looked like about in his 30s. So this was 70 years ago. Like, this was a while back. The 5 daimyo families were the Amasuki family, Toki's family, Shimosuke family, Yasu's and Ushimaru's, the Uzuki family, the Fugetsu family, and the Kurozumi family. Something interesting. Every single one of these clans has the kanji for moon, except for Kurozumi. Kurozumi means black coal in Japanese. All the other ones have some meaning for moon, okay? So then you get to Kurozumi's, which is coal. I'm just saying, like, that kind of sets them up to be like, I wonder what family is going to turn out to be traitorous bastards. I wonder. It's just like one of these things is not like the other here, you know? But anyway, the head of the Kurozumi family, much like Orochi, who is actually Orochi's grandfather, decided, all right, here's what I'm going to do. Since one of the daimyo heads is going to be selected as the next shogun, I'll just poison all the other ones. So I'm the only one left. And they have to pick me. I mean, would you expect anything else from Orochi's family, considering what, you know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree in this instance. In this one particular instance, it turns out to be true. So yeah, Orochi's granddaddy decided to start poisoning all the other daimyos. Like, how you doing, daimyo Uzuki? Here, have this, not suspicious at all apple. Oh, well, thank you, Kurozumi granddaddy. Hey, you know, I really... Wow! Barry, no! Okay. Oh, Barry. Barry, you okay, buddy? Okay, alright. Oh, man. The second I did that, I'm like, oh, crap, Barry's gonna fall on my head. I'm like, I'm waiting for it. But it's alright. It's alright, Barry. It's alright. You're okay, buddy. You lost your hat. I'll find it later. Okay. But no, yeah, that's what, you know, Orochi's granddaddy did. He just went around and poisoned everybody. And if anybody asked questions, they're just like, oh, yeah, no, they just died in infighting. Yeah, the daimyo of the Shimosuke clan and the Uzuki clan, they just fought overnight and they both died. So what are you gonna do? It's like, yeah, I guess what we're gonna do. I guess you're in the running. I'm like, okay. So, yeah, the problem here is that he was about to succeed, and obviously not all of them, well, actually, did they all die? Because, you know, you might say, like, if they all died, there wouldn't be any Shimosuke clan here, but not necessarily. They could have already had children by the time they died here. His rivals disappeared one by one. Okay, so I guess it doesn't really clarify if all the other daimyos died, but it seems to imply that, because the witch's story ends by saying that, you know, everything was going good for Lord Kurozumi, everything was about in the palm of his hands, but then Lord Sukiyake and his wife, Sukiyaki's dad and his wife ended up having a child who was Sukiyaki. Okay, so Sukiyaki ended up being like this miracle child. A child born at like the last minute. All the other daimyos were dropping like flies for infighting reasons, but then all of a sudden they managed to have a kid who was Sukiyaki. It's like, oh, okay, we're good then. He's gonna be the next shogun. And so the witch starts crying and like, oh, and it was such a travesty. And at the same time, the Kurozumi head, which is Orochi's grandfather, he was found out for what he was doing. I don't know how they found out, but he was exposed for his attempt at killing the other daimyos. I guess his successful attempts at killing the other daimyos. And then he was excommunicated. He was cast out. He was like, you are no longer royalty. You are no longer nobility. You are cast down to the lowest rungs of society. You will be gone. The Kurozumi clan's name was in tatters. I guess their fans were in tatters too, because they were nobles. They probably had a nice collection of of, you know, Kurozumi fans, and then they also got destroyed along with the rest of their clan and their home. Okay, so you can understand, okay, that's the situation. That's why Orochi grew up in poverty. That's how that happened there. His grandfather kind of screwed the pooch on that one. And so the witch, to kind of wrap up her story, just goes ranting and raving to Orochi. He's like, Orochi, Lord Orochi, who is the one person that took away all of your life and your livelihood? Who's the one that took away your birthright? The one that took away your life of luxury that you would certainly be living right now? Who is the one person you need to defeat amongst all others? And Orochi, as a little kid here, is like, the one that was born, Sukiyaki Kozuki. Really? That's the conclusion you arrived to. Okay, it's Orochi, so I understand how he arrived at that conclusion, but wow, wow, right? I mean, like, think about this. It's like, your family was a daimyo family. You were probably already living pretty decently. You weren't as awash in luxury as the shogun, but you were a flipping daimyo. All right? Kurozumi's granddaddy is like, oh, I'm going to try to poison everybody so I could become the shogun. And then because he was trying to kill other people, he ended up getting found out, obviously got removed. Sukiyaki was born, he became the shogun, and Orochi comes to the conclusion here of, if only Sukiyaki wasn't born, then my granddad would have killed everybody and rose to shogun, and then my dad would have been shogun, and then I would have been shogun. Not thinking about the fact of, like, if Kurozumi's granddaddy would have just played nice and just went along with the whole thing. Number one, there still could have been a chance he would have been maybe at least selected to be the shogun. I mean, Sukiyaki would have been born regardless, but he might have still gotten into the shogun's good graces. But regardless of that, if Kurozumi Orochi's granddad would have just played along, they would have still been a daimyo family. Orochi still would have grown up in nobility. He would have grown up with a nice place to live and food and money. His granddad was the one that decided, oh, well, I know we already have a nice place to live and we have a nice family and we have food and money and all that stuff, but I want more. I'm willing to risk the rest of my clan's livelihood just to get a little bit more, just to be the top of the heap. Well, there's always people like that, I assume. Now, maybe their lives as daimyo were not, you can't look at it like that, okay? Daimyo families, the way we see in Wano, they're always way better off than the other clans, okay? So, you know, they might not have had as much, they might not have had a giant castle to live in, like the Shogun does, but I'm sure they were probably doing okay for themselves, okay? But wow, yeah, so Orochi arrives to that conclusion. He's like, I need to get rid of, Sukiyaki, or Oden's, but you know, that family line. That's the reason. That's what ruined it. I'm like, all right, Orochi, whatever, bro. That's the way you're gonna view this. So, the deal here, that's where he gets it in his mind, like, I'm gonna be Shogun someday. I'm gonna be Shogun Orochi. And so that just drives him throughout the rest of his entire existence. That dream of becoming Shogun and having the whole country under his thumb is what just is the driving factor there. He asks what the woman's name is, the old witch. He's like, who are you? How do you know all this? And the witch is like, my name's not important. What is important is your birthright. You must slay the rat Sukiyaki. You know? So I'm assuming this is either his grandmother, like this is Orochi's granddad's wife, that was, you know, distraught, you know, by, oh, my husbando tried to take over the country, but he failed, and we fell from grace. Oh, but my precious grandson, he has the opportunity. So, okay, I could see that. I could totally see that, and that's the reason she kept her identity secret there. She also has the power of the Mane Mane no Mi, the fruit that Mr. 2 Bon Clay has currently. Okay. Like, okay, I mean, yeah, I mean, at this point in the story, this was long before Bon Clay was born, because I think Bon Clay is only like 32 years old or somewhere around in his early 30s. This was like, you know, over 40 years ago, so this was well before he was born. Interesting fact, though, if the Mane Mane no Mi was in Wano, and Wano's an isolated nation, and when this woman died and the fruit went back into circulation, I guess that does kind of prove the fact of, like, the fruit has, like, a specific fruit it turns into every time. Allow me to explain. Let's say the Bara no Mi, which is a pineapple, the one that Bege ate. Okay, Bege dies. It'll never happen. But when Bege dies, that fruit's going to get recirculated into the whole thing, but it has to possess another pineapple. Now, if there's another pineapple around Bege when he dies, it'll just go into that one. But if there isn't any close by, it'll have to go into the nearest one. So let's say Bege dies on one random island, but the nearest pineapple's like 3 islands away. The fruit gets reincarnated on that other island because it has to retain the same shape. That's why it can be documented in the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia. Like, oh, this pineapple fruit that has this specific layout and these spiral patterns, this is the Bara no Mi. It can be identified because it's the same fruit every time it gets reincarnated. So, either that, or when she dies, the fruit does get reincarnated in Wano, but somehow ends up off of Wano in the new world over to Paradise, because Mr. 2, isn't Mr. 2 originally from the East? I think I remember reading that somewhere in the Vivre card. He's somewhere from another ocean, so well, there is connection between the East and Wano. I'm overthinking this right now. This is going in too much, but she has the power of the clone fruit, so she uses her power to, like, transform from a, old hag to, like, a beautiful woman, and then she turns into Orochi, and then she turns into this other, like, a guy, and, she explains, this is my power, I can become anybody I want because of the clone fruit, and much in the same way that, Crocodile used Mr. 2 to turn into the King Cobra of Alabasta and, make the people think that, he was really the king. That's kind of the same deal they do, too. She also has in her possession, the old hag has the possession of the mythical zone Yamata no Orochi fruit, which is also kind of resembling a pineapple. So she lays it down in front of Orochi and is like, I will give you the power, the ability to take over this land. Okay, so you can see the pieces fitting together. You can see where this is all going, right? Okay. So Orochi's like, I will do anything to rise to my power. So it's like, all right. So now we get to see what's all going on here. He pretends to be this sickly old kid. All right, fine. Sickly old kid. And he goes up to Yasu's, daimyo palace, and he's like, please, sir, I have nowhere else to go. And Yasue takes him in and raises him up. And then he meets Oden. So that's how he got connections with Oden there. And then Oden, brought him to, he went to Curry to ask Oden for money. And Oden kept giving it to him because he was Yasue's servant, even though he kept borrowing money. He's like, oh, please, just a little bit more money. I can pay you back next month. And then next month he's like, yeah, I don't have the money yet, Oden, but if you can give me a little more, I have a job right around the corner that'll get me more money. So he kept mooching money from Oden, rising up, at least becoming more prevalent. The old woman eventually used her Mane powers to transform into Sukiyaki. So they did something to Sukiyaki. Orochi obviously got into his good graces, and the way he did that, the reason that Orochi ended up working at the palace was because when there was one point when the witch turned into Oden, and then took Orochi up to the palace and is like, yo, have this kid work here. He's a good worker. Plus he knows how to make medicine. And so that's how Orochi got into the shogun's good graces, because Oden himself was the one that presented him and told him, oh yeah, he's like a younger brother to me. Here you go. Obviously the people of Wano were not going to know anything about, like, devil fruit transformations or anything like that. They're just going to be completely in the dark about this. They might have thought it was a little weird for Oden just to arrive unannounced and just drop a servant out on them, but it's Oden from their perspective, right? So they just go with it, right? Interesting question on when exactly did this old woman touch Oden's face, because you have to touch the face in order to activate the Mane no Mi. So maybe she was like the grandmother of the Kurozumi clan and she was able to get in somewhere and like touch. I don't know how it worked, but anyway, it worked somehow. So that's how Orochi got into the palace. And then, of course, when Sukiyaki, started to get sick, I'm sure, well, maybe Orochi was like, oh, you look sick, Sukiyaki. Let me make you some medicine. I'm really good at it. The medicine, of course, made him sicker and sicker as he ended up on his deathbed. The witch and Orochi did something with Sukiyaki, tied him up, got rid of him, and then the witch assumed the form of Sukiyaki. So at that meeting of the daimyos, when Sukiyaki's like, I have to announce a puppet king to rule in my stead until Oden arrives, I select Orochi. The reason that's because that wasn't the real shogun. That was, in fact, the old witch, and we get to see them laughing later, like, after all the daimyo heads leave, Sukiyaki, who's actually the witch, Witch and Orochi in the room. I know this is getting confusing, but they're like, you know, oh, I will give you the title of the king, and then they all start laughing like, ah, yeah, we got him, we got this locked down, right? And then after this, after their little plan was fully realized here, it was announced to the entire country that the Shogun Sukiyake, he died. He passed away. So I'm assuming that what happened here was that the poisoning finally took effect. Sukiyake died. Orochi and the old witch figured out some way to remove his body from the castle, get him out of there. She assumed the form of Sukiyake, called that meeting of the daimyos, and then brought in Orochi. The whole reason why Orochi had to work his way up through Yasu and Oden and get in good graces with Sukiyake was you needed to have at least some sort of credulity to this. You know, because let's say Orochi never did anything. You might just say, why didn't the witch just transform into Sukiyake, kill the original Sukiyake, and then just, I make Orochi the new shogun? Well, that could cause problems because Orochi is somebody that nobody knows about. But if you build it up over the years that Orochi is this loyal servant, and that if Oden himself says he's like my younger brother, take him in, then there's a little bit more credulity here. Yasu is still dubious, as I'm sure a lot of the other daimyo heads are, but they just kind of go along with it because it's the shogun's decree. I would probably question if the shogun was, you know, all up. Is like, are you okay? Can you remember what you had for breakfast this morning? Making him shogun? That doesn't sound, you know, but they go along with it because he's the shogun, and that's how Orochi rises to being the interim shogun, but as we all know, he became the permanent shogun for over 20 years. So we cut now to 26 years ago on the 4th year of Oden's journey. Oden has no idea any of this is going on, by the way, because, you know, limited contact with Wano, so he has no idea his dad is dead. No idea what's going on with Orochi being the interim shogun. No idea what's going on with the other with the other daimyo heads or anything like that. He's just out sailing and having a good time. And so the Whitebeard crew, last scene of the chapter, they're approaching an island. All the fish from this island are just swimming away. The wild animals are like the elephants are like charging off of the island into the ocean, trying to escape. Something horrible. It's like a gas weapon was released on this island or something, and every living thing is trying to escape as fast as possible. So they're like, oh, what's going on here? And they notice, I was like, oh, it must be that guy. And so we see the last scene of the chapter. We see Goldie Roger, the king of the pirates, with his crew during the last journey of his life, because this is 26 years ago. They found Raftel 25 years ago. He was executed 24 years ago. This is right smack dab in their epic Grand Line final journey. Crocus is there. Buggy is there. Silver's Rayleigh's there. Scopper Gabon's there. So everybody that's like, Scopper Gabon is probably Denjiro. Sorry, buddy. Don't know what to tell you. It's not the case. Denjiro's still back at Wano. Scopper's right here. I know what to tell you. You know, Shanks is there, age 13. He's got the straw hat on, plus Roger took his captain hat off and gave it to Shanks. Shanks is on the ground just munching on a chocolate bar. Buggy's doing lookout duty, and he sees like, oh, Captain Roger, the Whitebeards are coming! And Roger, he's beating up a bunch of Marines on this random island out in the middle of nowhere, and he's like, you know, call Sengoku or Garb. I don't want to fight you pissants, and tosses them down. We see Roger there for being a sickly man at this point. He's definitely, he even mentions, you know, I'm gonna die soon, so he's, you know, succumbed to his illness, but he still looks pretty ripped if you ask me. Look at this man right here. This is truly the god of pirates. He's got his sword, which might be Griffin. Silver's Rayleigh's got a sword, which might be Griffin. They all look kind of like Griffin. Actually, they don't look as long as Shanks' sword does, and Shanks' sword actually has an inverted kind of blade, so we don't actually get to see the blade of Rogers. It might be. Who knows? But yeah, that's basically just that last, you know, page spread is like big fan service for everybody. And Roger mentions it's been a while since he's seen Whitebeard, since he's fought with Whitebeard. You know, this might be the final encounter we have with each other. You know, let's make it a monumentous occasion. And that's the end of the chapter. Wow, you know, that was a lot to unpack, wasn't it? Yeah, I gotta make some extra videos about this, because this is insane. How Orochi rose to power and all the particulars there, and I feel like I might have left a few things out with that witch and her explanation, so I'm gonna go back and kind of talk about all that more in length here. But, yeah, really action-packed chapter, a lot of stuff included, ending it out with Roger himself. I just love the fact this is a Roger adventure. We're reading a Roger flashback adventure. Granted, we're probably not, this is Oden's flashback, not not Roger's. I feel at some point in the story, Oda's got to give us like a Roger flashback when he was a little kid and why he wanted to be a pirate and all that. We got to get like a major flashback with Roger focused on him specifically. But just the fact we get to see him in action here is insane, right? Isn't it great? I love it. Okay, so, yeah, though, I'm assuming what's going to happen here is, considering we're moving along at a nice pace, we're 26 years from the present storyline. All right, so Laugh Tale's coming up. Oden was part of that final journey. All right, so here's what's going to happen, in my opinion, okay? Whitebeard and Roger, they're going to meet on this island. Whitebeard's going to dock at this island. Roger and Whitebeard are going to meet. They're going to have a friendly little clash. They're going to fight. You know, it's going to be like Rayleigh against, you know, Oden, and then freaking, you know, Roger against Whitebeard and all the crews. They're going to have a little bit of a crash. After that's all said and done, they're gonna party, because they're pirates. Alright? At this point, Roger's gonna meet Oden properly and explain who he is, and Roger always wanted to meet him. So I think what's gonna happen here is this. They're gonna be like, alright, tell you what, considering everything that's going on here, and considering it's been 4 years since Oden left Wano, they might be near Wano again. So I think they're going to go back to Wano at this point. I think both of them are. Roger and Whitebeard are both going to go back to Wano, because they need to have that. There's that meeting that they had, the last meeting that Whitebeard and Roger had. I guess it could take place at this island. They don't have to backtrack to Wano, but they do have to backtrack to Wano anyway at some point, because they need to get Toki back to Wano. They need to get Momo back to Wano, and Hiyori, we see her at this point. She's born as well, because 2 years ago she would have just been born. Momo's 2. So I really think that this scene right here, when Roger and Whitebeard are sitting down for that last drink and they're talking about the Will of D and Raftel and everything, this takes place at Wano. So I think they're gonna fight, and they're gonna be like, hey, let's go back to Wano. It's not that far from here. So they go back to Wano. Whitebeard and Roger have their last drink or whatever, and then oh wait, hold up. Roger told Whitebeard at that moment that he knows how to get to Laugh Tale, like he's been there already. I guess it doesn't have to be necessarily that Roger was there already, because he might have had the road poneglyphs in his possession, so he might know how to get there. Maybe that could have been the case. Yeah, because this is setting it up like this is going to be Roger and Whitebeard's last meeting. Like, he even says that. It might not be their final meeting, but Roger says he thinks it'll be their final meeting. And we need to include that moment when Whitebeard and Roger had the sake and talked about where Laugh Tale was. You know, and Whitebeard wasn't interested in it, but it seems like Roger did know. So he hasn't been there yet, but this is like this is the best time for this to happen, you know? So maybe Roger hasn't been there himself, but he has the road poneglyphs, he's deciphered them, or Oden read them, and he's like, yeah, I know how to get there, Whitebeard, you want me to tell you? Maybe it's something like that. But anyway, they're gonna go back to Wano, drop off Toki, drop off Momo, drop off, well, maybe Izo might stay, Inuarashi, Nekomamushi, they're going to leave, they're gonna go back to Wano at that point, and then Whitebeard's gonna go his separate way, and then Roger's gonna ask Oden to join, or Oden's going to jump on Roger's crew, and then they're going to make that final stretch, that final pull. The following year, they're going to arrive at Laugh Tale, find the One Piece. That's all going to fit together. At that point, the Roger pirates are going to disband. Oden will return to Wano 25 years ago after that adventure, and then 24 years ago, that's when Roger's going to be executed, and then 4 years after that, 20 years ago, that brings us all full circle, where Kaido arrives, the Beast Pirates arrive, Orochi enacts his great power. Yeah. Okay, I think that could make sense. The only problem there is with the meeting with Roger and Whitebeard, and that seems to take place on Wano. How's that going to fit into all this? But beyond that, I don't think that's big of an issue to work around. You can figure out some way to make that work. But yeah, after this whole encounter, they're going to go back to Wano to drop some people off and then continue on. Because Neko and Inu, they said, oh yeah, we journeyed with Roger as well, but not to Raftel. So they might have been just talking about Neko and Inu journeyed with Roger back to Wano, dropped off, and then Roger and Oden continued on to Laugh Tale. Alright, I think that makes sense. This video, it already feels like it's been one of my longer ones. How long have we been going here? 54 minutes. Alright, but my battery's about to die in this camera, so I'm going to be ending it here. A lot of stuff to talk about here. Let me know below how you feel about Orochi and how he viewed this, like, injustice that he's been suffering. How do you feel about this witch lady, who she is? How did she get, well, not how did she get the Mane Mane, or how did the Mane Mane get from her to Mr. 2? How devil fruits reincarnate, what's up with the different daimyo clans, and that. A lot of stuff to go into here. But thanks for watching, everybody. I'm glad you're okay, Barry. This will be JoJo Santa signing out. Later, everybody.